Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to EIG's second in a series of webinars on e-commerce, optimizing the last mile outbound and returns to enable scalability and growth. With our guest panelists, John Cosgrove from Atlantic Handling Systems and Dani Kaplan from SMC Data. We appreciate you taking the time to attend today's webinar on building your evolving resilient enterprise, and we hope that your family are healthy and safe. Our webinar today is focused on, again, optimizing the last mile. Our last webinar was on unleashing the power of ERP, modernization, and warehouse automation, and that is on the EIG website. And we'll be having another webinar 3 coming up at the end of next month on creating a more efficient warehouse. We look forward to this being an interactive session, so please do ask questions in the polling, answer the polling questions and ask questions in the chat. Tim will be monitoring that for us, and we appreciate his support. With that, Dani, a few words of introduction. You're on mute, Dani.
Sorry. I'm Dani Kaplan. I represent supply chain software. It's a single database. It's manufactured distribution of food that includes warehouse management. That result of having no integration between the warehouse and the software. And in the case of merger and acquisition, there is no need to have multiple ERP software that don't integrate well.
Thanks, Dani. John, a few words of introduction.
I'm John Cosgrove. I'm the president and co-founder of Atlantic Handling Systems here in Fairlawn, New Jersey. And what we do is we design, sell, install, and service storage systems and conveyor systems. And we do systems integration with people like Dani Kaplan, who do warehouse management systems. And we provide automation to try to make our customers more productive.
Thanks, John. And my name is Jim Vries, founder Enhance International Group. EIG is a group of passionate experts to guide transformations and provide self-generating, self-funding results. With that, we'll go ahead and do the introductions for each. Start off with John.
Hey, Atlantic Handling Systems. We've been in business for 19 years. What we do is we supply and install all types of material handling systems. We offer a CAD design team. We're an engineering-based company. We try to help our customers reach peak efficiency and productivity throughout their warehouses. We work with a variety of companies, everyone from manufacturers to distributors. And today we're going to talk about e-commerce, which is something that we've been involved in a lot. And I'm looking forward to our discussion today.
Thanks, John. And Dani?
Having integrated warehouse, it's a major issue. Many companies buy software not being aware they don't have a full warehouse automation. That results in integration, buying separate warehouse, integration issue, broken link, and inaccurate inventory, and remote location sometimes have too much inventory, sometimes have too little inventory because the integration is not there.
Thanks, Dani. And just a little background on EIG. We're a group of over 50 consulting companies and SaaS providers. And we provide that collaborative thought leadership to ensure that you get what you need. We do the 1 + 1 = 3, just like we have today with John and Dani. So we can, on the right side here, you see an automated ecosystem as our goal, as our vision. That's our strategy. And then we provide that execution arm, and Dani and John definitely do that. With that, I appreciate everyone answering the survey questions as where you're from and entering into the chat. Looks like we have a very diverse group of folks. And with that, we'll get started. Thanks again for entering in so we know who's there or here. And again, this is our second webinar. Our third webinar, which will be at the end of next month, will be creating a more efficient warehouse, doing more with less space. With that, the deliverables today is we're going to look at that ERP, WMS, inventory control and picking that Dani brought up, optimizing facility layout to accommodate e-commerce with John. And then we're going to get into increasing productivity through efficient picking with both John and Dani. And then we'll get into balancing inventory versus logistics cost and OTIF in the last mile. I'll put a few thoughts on that. And then we'll all kind of pitch in on handling returns. So the agenda is overcoming legacy challenges. First, let's talk about the challenges, your challenges. We want this to be interactive. There's a polling question coming up. Please do enter in what challenges you're facing out there. Then we'll get into embracing e-commerce warehouse automation, and then unleashing the power of a unified database with Dani, and then e-com last mile logistics. We'll talk a little bit about that myself, and then leveraging intelligent systems insights across the board and how everything fits together. With that, overcoming legacy challenges. So if you would enter in here, we'll actually go through this question in a few minutes. What are your warehousing challenges? Please do enter into the poll ev.com/Jim DeVries 073. You could put it in the chat, and then Tim will help us out and put it up there, and we'll look at this one more time at the end of this section. So when you talk about last mile logistics, it's the biggest buzzword, I'd say, since the pandemic, is since everything's being delivered to the door, where in the past it would be delivered to a store. And this marketplace has grown tremendously in the last 3 or 4 years. Huge keggers, 17% keggers in North America, and it's expected to continue to grow. Of course, you have the FedEx, the UPSs out there in the world, the big actors, so to speak. But there's also quite a number of new folks on the table here, such as SmartBox. Of course, Amazon pulled in right away with their own fleet, but there's a lot of different companies coming up. The market is fragmented, as it says here, and it's growing like crazy. So this comes from Technivo, so we thank them for these stats. John, some words, your thoughts?
Yeah, we as we look at supply chain, last mile, Amazon has perfected that down to your street address, and it's something that it's putting a lot of pressure on a lot of our other distributors that we work with, that they're going to have to fulfill and meet these needs, because we're not going to go back. People expect, they order something today and they get it tomorrow. And so, we need to be more productivity in the warehouse, which means more automation, so we can do things faster and be more productive.
Absolutely. Dani, your thoughts?
The major issue companies are facing today, before the pandemic, they would deliver the inventory to the store or to the distribution center, and it would be an entire container. Today, they have to pick up one item at a time. So it's a whole different situation of picking up the inventory. And it creates a big issue in the warehouse, picking up pieces instead of shipping up a full container.
Thanks, Dani. Good summary. If you have any questions or comments, please enter them into the chat, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. With that, just go to the next warehousing challenges that we see here is, online retail purchases have increased and will continue to increase from 21 to 24%. Some even say higher than 24%. Pre-pandemic, 78% of the C-level executives reported lack of visibility into inventory. So lack of visibility continues to be a challenge, although there's a lot more focus on that today than there ever has been in the past, which is good. Of course, the easy return policy, a lot of returns, as we have all probably used it ourselves with free returns. 18% of items purchased online in 2020 were returned. And so we're seeing a lot of that. Last mile costs, this is big, represents 41% of the total supply chain costs. So, when we talk about inflation, a lot of the inflation is coming from this. We want everything to our door. Well, you're going to pay for it somehow or somewhere. So this last mile is certainly contributing to inflation. And Forrester predicts that brands will lose about 50% on sales on back-ordered products because we're not ordering correctly. And you can see the other stats. So, Dani, any additional thoughts on this slide?
Yes, you think you have enough inventory, and you find out when you get returns, you double your inventory or tripled it. And that creates an issue. What do you do with the excess inventory? With the software represent, it has a retail module that you can sell it in the malls. So when you buy in the malls inventory, you really buy excess inventory at discounted price. But it's a good way to lower the load of the warehouse. Otherwise, the warehouse will explode the inventory.
Thanks, Dani. John, your thoughts?
Yeah, Jim, that 87% are in the process of planning expansion. One of the problems right now is real estate.
Mm-hmm.
The real estate, the values are so high and the rents are so high. If you're in a lease, if someone has been in a long-term lease and they want to break that lease now and they take a look at moving to a larger facility, they find out that the costs are exorbitant. So, and they can't find it. There's a lack of inventory. So one of the things that we're trying to do is help them to improve what their current facility and make it more efficient and, make the storage so that we can accommodate more product and continue to be efficient. And the way to do that is through automation and through changes. Sometimes, people have 10-foot fork truck aisles, and they'll have to change the equipment they have to get the aisles down to a much more reasonable spot so they can get more inventory in.
Yeah, and I was just reading today that inventory is, the capacity is inventory is growing because the demand isn't where it was expected. So inventory is growing, which means the warehouses are getting fuller, which just means, of course, higher warehousing costs. So that's what's happening right now, and the trend is moving in that direction, just from a report from this morning.
And supply chain problems, the fact that they can't get goods, so they're bringing more inventory in, so they're not left.
People are still over ordering, and then we have issues of inventory going bad, right? So expired inventory, and that can't be found. So having a system like Dani's, a system that really keeps track of expiration dates is so vital in this world where we have ups and downs in supply and demand going on.
Jim, a question just popped up. What disruptions happen in the warehouse when we're reconfiguring it and trying to retool? What we try to do is work efficiently with the companies and not and have them try to continue to run their business while we're doing that. Sometimes it might mean that we have to work off hours or we have to work hand in hand together, but we try to achieve to get that done so that they can continue to ship and run their business.
Yeah, like you said, working off hours, doing one row at a time, not trying to do the full warehouse at a time.
Exactly.
Doing it over the weekends. And that's really the key to transitioning your warehouse. So with that, we'll move on to some goals that we found, outbound last mile metric goals of things that you would want to be looking at of course, reduce delivery time. We could spend an hour on this slide if we wanted to, but maybe I'll just turn it over to Dani, and you can pick out one or two of these that you like, that you want to focus on.
Basically, the main issue is optimize the cost, because with all the returns you're getting now and the cost of delivery, it's a very fine balance. And another issue is the vendor delivery time. Prior to Colvet, people look for the cheapest vendor, drop ship to the store or drop ship to the distribution center. Today, it's a different story. It's not a question of cost, it's a question of delivery time. If the shipment arrives late, the department store will cancel the order. You end up with excess inventory, production disruption, with each cash flow issue.
Absolutely. John, your thoughts?
Yeah, increase operational efficiency and reduce expenses. That's our part of it, automation. And I just saw in the chat from someone talking about how warehouses are now going from, large pallets to picks, because now we're picking eaches. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go on. But there is a place now for, steel shelving that was kind of on the back burner for years, because now our whole, the whole order integrity has changed. So instead of, picking cases, now we're picking eaches. So that's something that can be used within the warehouse efficiently.
Absolutely. From case to eaches, the transition.
Yeah.
And I think you have some good examples later in the webinar of that. That'll be good to see. So here are some returns. We don't often we don't get to returns, in discussion. So I think this is a very good slide that summarizes some of the things that you would want to be looking at in managing returns. Dani, your thoughts?
Return has become a big issue, which creates a congestion in the warehouse. You have to determine what is sellable, what's not sellable, and then it affects the warehouse space. So it's become a major issue now, determining what to do with the return and how to get rid of it. Which one way is the shopping mall, which we have a retail module, and the second one is selling it to the consolidator, which we all know about those stores, and you get it at a lower price, but at least it's out of your warehouse.
Good tips. John, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Dani's exactly right. You have to determine whether it's profitable or worth it for you to bring returns back into your warehouse. I mean, if you're selling a very high-end product and it's affordable for you to bring it back in and reprocess it, then it's worth it. But in a lot of cases, if you're selling something that's, especially in e-commerce, if it's, we know that 25% of all women's clothing goes out, comes back, clothing and shoes. So, most women, they might decide, well, I don't know whether I wear a size 8 or a size 10, so I'll order one of each and then send it back. So as long as, the big companies have changed that whole thing where, returns are accepted, you have to determine what you're going to do with that product. It may not be worth bringing it back into your warehouse, because it does create, it creates real estate issues, takes up a lot of space. You need to have people to repackage it and then put it back into the warehouse, which takes time and effort, and it may not be worth it if you're selling an item that isn't that expensive. But if you're selling a very high item, it may be worth it to bring something back in, medical devices and or whatever. So it's something that you have to really take a look at. And that's what I think Dani's system, the ERP linked with the WMS can really help you to do that.
Absolutely. Excellent. If you have any other thoughts, please enter them into the chat anytime during the webinar. We'd love to hear your feedback. We have what are your challenges out there? We see rising costs, I guess, expiration, wastages, that's good. Any other thoughts from John or Danny? You want to chime in here on what you're seeing, challenges?
Yeah,
that we-
it's all the above, you know. It's just you know, inventory. One of the big problems in inventory is what we talked about before with the supply chain shortages. Everyone has now ordered and pretty much over ordered, trying to get back up their supply on certain items, which, you know, blocks the warehouse. Now, how many times do you go into a warehouse now and you look down an aisle and you see pallets in the aisle, which really cuts down on the productivity? You can't get a fork truck down there. You can't get a picker or a man on board. So what it really does is it all of these things, they snowball into costing you a lot of money.
Absolutely. And the more dust on it, the more likely it's old.
Right.
Certainly have some dusty pallets out there that probably could be thrown away, or, you know, you get to the point you hate to write it off, but that's another challenge that folks have is, you know, taking the loss of the write-offs. Nobody wants to hit the books with that. But the longer you wait, the more painful it is. And now you're just blocking up the aisles, as you said, John, and then you have to get another warehouse because you can't afford to throw it away, which I always find an interesting conversation.
I mean, how many times I've seen it, you know, where you go into a warehouse and you just see pallets and you ask people and they say, well, you know, this product doesn't move, but, you know, I guess, you know, the ownership or
The
management
finance
is they're waiting for it to come back in style or whatever, and it just sits there.
or the board,
Right.
it's a loss to the company, and it's like
Exactly.
X
Yep.
million dollars loss, and nobody wants to take that hit on the books of a loss.
Right.
And so, but you need to be planning that loss into your daily operations, especially now that we're over ordering. You're going to have greater losses, which means, according to your demand, how much loss are you going to have? And
Right.
how are you going to manage that? That needs to be a proactive action within your finance group in your warehouse so that you can
You
manage
know,
this
that's
proactively.
inventory management. And if you set in the WMS, what Danny can talk to, you know, if you set
Yep,
parameters, you can do it over time so it isn't as painful. But you know,
absolutely.
if it reaches a boiling point on you, then it all comes down on you at once. So, you know, there should be some type parameters set within the warehouse that if you don't sell this product in X amount of months, that you should be moved.
Yeah. So we have a question here. Haven't supply chains eased to a large degree? From David.
I can answer that a little. Yes, David, on certain products, yes, but things that have chips in it, like Pro PLCs that we use in conveyor, you know, fork truck deliveries are now out sometimes well over a year because they can't get the you know, the chips and the, you know, automation that's needed to do those things. But I think on like goods, you know, like like clothing and that kind of thing, I think it has eased, but there's also that fear that they won't be able to get the product. So I think there's a lot of over ordering and inventory increases by people trying just to make sure that they don't get put into the same position they were in before.
Well, this is a great discussion. We probably could keep going. Danny, you have a few words? Go ahead.
Yeah, we have a question in chat. How difficult it is to transition from current system to new ERP system? That's a major issue companies are facing when they're looking to buy new ERP software. They are afraid of business disruption. And the way to get around it is with a test environment. You convert the data over to test environment every day. You make sure it's accurate. You train the people in test environment. And before you go live, you make sure everybody is proficient. And after they go live, the technical team, support team stay on staff. So you run your business while the everything done in test environment without having a business disruption.
Thanks, Danny. With that, we probably could keep talking here for the next 45 minutes or half hour. But we have some things to share. So in this next section, We're going to be embracing e-commerce warehouse automation and ask you what are the challenges in picking inventory in your warehouse. We'll come back to this question at the end of the section. With that, John.
Okay, what you're looking at here in this picture is a 3-level high pick tower, where we call what it is a pick tower where we have flow rack that flows from both sides down to a conveyor in the middle, which you'll see a picture of later. The way they load this particular flow rack is they use an order picker, and the man goes up on board, and they have a pallet, and they will then load each case in its flow rack that flows toward the middle to where the pick aisle is. If you're looking here, this is actually a front view where the pickers are. If you look to the left, you see some generic barcodes. They take the barcode and they put it on the shipper, and then they scan the pick ticket and they create a license plate. And this is actually a zone pick or a pick and pass. So what they do is they pick their zone and then they pass it down. So both conveyors on each side are gravity conveyors, and the conveyor in the middle is a power conveyor, which will then, when the order is done, when they scan the pick ticket and they find out that it's done, they can put it on the conveyor and it'll take it out to shipping. If you look up above the conveyor, there's a conveyor that's hanging down, and that conveyor is a trash conveyor. So what happens is there's an unbelievable amount of corrugated cardboard that is created, and instead of having it in the pick aisle, what we do is we put it in on top, and that takes it through the building and out to a baler outside where it's taken care of. Now, this specific pick module is 3 levels high, but if you look on the face of the shelves, there are these lights, and it's pick to light. So what happens is when the picker scans the barcode, it then lights up the lights, and it tells it if there's 20 to be picked or 2. But in e-commerce, these are usually eaches. So what'll happen is it's 1 or 2, and then they put it in a box and they send it to shipping to be to have the dunnage put in and be shipped out.
Dani?
This is an example of picking up is a headset. Products have no barcode label. So by using a headset with a voice speak with multiple languages, it tells you go to location 10A and pick specific items. Another advantage of a headset pick, if you sell ice cream in the freezer, it's hard to hold the RF gun. So it tells you what location 10A, pick up 10 Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Location 10B, pick up 10 Haagen-Dazs chocolate. So you don't have to scan it. You just pick it, the voice where to go and what to pick. That's another new technology being used in a warehouse now. Instead of using an RF gun that costs $3,000, you use a smartphone for $400. And today's in labor reality of shortage of people, the RF gun for $3,000 require training. But everybody's using a smartphone. So we have a clients are getting 99.9 accuracy inventory and being able to ship the same day with a smartphone. It works very well for small items that goes to straight to the consumer. Prior to the Corvette, we picked up big bulks of conveyor belt. Then you need the RF gun. But with single pieces, the phone works very well.
Okay, what we have here is the pick module, as you see in the background that you saw before. And what we're doing is we're bringing the product out on 3 levels to transport it to shipping. So what will happen is on this specific application, they were shipping sunglasses, but they were shipping to Walmart and all different places. So each one has a different security code on. So what they would do is they would load all of it full, and then they would pick it clean so that they were shipping. So each one of those levels were designated to either Amazon or Walmart, Target, so on and so forth. But so you see there what we did here is we brought it out on 3 levels, and this specific building was built in a place where the floor is kind of it's not as strong. It's built actually on a swamp. So what we had to do was distribute the weight of the conveyor. We couldn't hang it from the ceiling, so we built structures to hang the conveyor. What will happen is we bring it down through transportation through that conveyor, bring it to packaging, and then we put it on. This is a narrow belt sorter. This can do between 60 and 90 cases a minute. What happens is we'll bring it down and it can go a 90-degree divert or a 30-degree divert. And what happens with this is when we scan it, we'll ship it down, and then the case will come down and they can load it either onto UPS or whoever is there, FedEx, to take it. This just shows before it goes into that narrow bed sorter, it goes to packaging. They do an inspection. That's why you see the case are open. They'll do an inspection. They'll put the dunnage in that they need. They'll weigh it. We weigh it actually on the fly, and then we send it out to the sorter. Here you're looking at a drawing, looking down on a drawing of the flow rack going. This is an actual pick module. We bring the conveyor out to a spiral that you see on the bottom. We can, from both ends, we can pull the product up through the spiral if we need to, but it's very good. But also, one of the things we can do here is we do a multi-level, but we can put either pallets in there, because if you're picking a lot, you don't want to keep loading cases. We'll put a pallet in. So if you're doing a lot of picks with that pallet, we can flow 2 pallets deep on this type system, or we can just put static shelving, which is something we talked about before for some of the slower moving items. So this just shows 2 that are back to back. If you look at the one on the far right, you will see behind it, that's a row of pallet rack. So there's a catwalk between the flow rack. So instead of using an order picker to go up and do that, we can then have levels on the 3 levels. They can have material handlers that can feed the flow rack, and the fork truck can load the pallets from the aisles on the outside. And we also, this all works because of the integration within the WMS, the warehouse management system that Dani provides. This is just the spiral where we bring out the product down the spiral sometimes, and at the end, and we can then package it and send it out to the ship to the dock doors.
Gravity fed, right?
No, this is a power one, but we do gravity fed chutes also. This is a power one. You can see the electric there.
Yeah.
But because of the volume, this particular pick module that we built, they were doing like 20,000 cases a day.
Nice. Back to Dani.
This is a case of a pet supply. It was a manufacturer and distributor. And for the past 40 years, they had an outdated system, and they picked the inventory by paper. When they saw the RF gun for $3,000, they said, what the hell is that? So now we gave them a smartphone, which is cost $400, and they pick up small items, you can see. So they're able to pick it up very quickly with very low training and ship it to the customer. They achieve 99% accuracy now and ship the same day, versus before they have issues with the inventory and took a day to ship it. The minute they pick up the item, a barcode scans out of a barcode label, scans out, comes out from the printer, they slap it on the item, and they ship it. So it's a very effective cost of using the system with a small, inexpensive item rather than using RF gun for $3,000. And it's all integrated with each other. And they have online information, what to pick, where to pick, and how much to pick.
So Jim, I just got a question that popped up in the chat. Does legacy software affect automation as far as these pick modules? And the answer to that question is most definitely. You know, what happens is we can build the hardware, you know, the flow rack, and get high density storage and conveyors and so on and so forth. But, you know, we have controls that we use, but we need the information from the WMS to help us to make that system more intelligent. You know, it tells us what shipping, what shipper to use, what size shipper, how much it weighs, so on and so forth. And we need all that information to really make the automation become very productive for our clients.
Another issue is if you have a standalone warehouse software and ERP software, have integration issues. So you have broken links. So the warehouse tell you have X amount of inventory, and the ERP find Y amount of inventory, which is a huge case in many cases of the broken links.
Nice. Great dialogue. Excellent. So we do have some challenges identified: safety, changing SKUs, slob. John, your thoughts?
Well, safety, of course, you know, safety is a huge thing now within everyone's warehouse. If you look at a lot of these systems that we put in, when you looked at the spiral, of course, we have guardrail all around. The great thing about a pick module is that all of your pickers are enclosed in an area where there's no moving fork truck traffic or anything else. They're all within the zone between the conveyor and the flow rack. So that's a great advantage. You know, we go into a lot of warehouses today and they're still picking off a pallet rack, and they have pickers walking down the aisles where people are driving fork trucks. And, you know, it's not a pretty thing if you see someone, if they get hit by a fork truck, and it does happen. So, you know, we're very, when we design a system, we make sure that we put safety as a #1 thing. And changing SKUs, I mean, that's the great advantage of Dani. You know, the WMS system can, within the pick module, change the SKUs and continue to monitor it and take inventory and, you know, have real time. So that's the best part of it.
Excellent. So we already discussed slob, so I think we're going to move on to the next section, which is Dani's going to kick us off here. As soon as there we go. So the unleashing of the power of a unified database, Dani will bring us through. There are some integration challenges. We'll come back to this in a few minutes, but you can see some things that have already been entered. But Dani, go ahead.
This is the advantage of a single database software that has warehouse management and analytic beside the conventional ERP software. The IBM Cognos is a real-time inventory, real-time analytic software that tells you what to have in stock, what to buy, how much to buy, and customer ability. And as you can see, it's a full supply chain. A supply chain portal, customer can order on the phone, warehouse, accounting, CRM, carrier integration, purchasing, forecasting, and remote location visibility. In the case of M&A, you have multiple ERP software. One warehouse is overstock and one other is understock. That's a detailed picture of the whole ERP system. It also includes a retail module, where you can sell your inventory in the shopping malls and get lower the load of the inventory in the warehouse. And if you guarantee your product, you have a service module that the contractor can go have a laptop in the car, fix the item, and update the cost on what part it was replaced. That's a full warehouse automation that's involved in the part of the ERP. A lot of ERP don't have a full warehouse management. They have a partial warehouse management. So they end up with a third-party warehouse, which creates integration issue. Last year, I closed a big deal, and they had both warehouse management and ERP software. They thought they have in stock 300 items, they find 30 items or 3,000 items because of broken links. This is a full warehouse management, and the logistic carrier has it integrate to the tracking industry, which tell you the inventory will fit on how many trucks. Put the first delivery in the front, last delivery in the back, and when trucks leave the warehouse, become a GPS. It also have the Cognos, which is real-time information. We give you a full view of the inventory in the warehouse, what to buy, when to buy, and whom to buy, which is a very important factor. The cheapest vendor is not the best vendor. Late delivery resulting in order cancellation, production disruption, excess inventory, equal cash flow issues. That's in a nutshell a view of the whole software. Single database, manufacturing, distribution, food. That translates to in today's M&A, a manufacturer can buy a distributor, and the distributor can buy a manufacturer, and they don't end up with multiple ERP systems that create integration issues and excess user. Real-time information give you full visibility, what to buy, how much to buy, and whom to buy, and cost. And the warehouse management is part of the whole system, gives you insight, what's the inventory level, smart picking with a smartphone, who to buy and how much to buy. This is the inventory analytic. It's a very important factor. What items are moving and what region of the country is buying. One client we have is the HVC. They have 100 locations nationwide. They know in each location what inventory each location has and what every area buys. In the winter, Florida buys air conditioning, Northeast buy heater. The dashboard gives you a totally view of the warehouse, of inventory in the warehouse. And the end user create with the IBM Cognos analytic information. And the whole database is in English. So you can drag and paste multiple pieces and create your own on the fly analytic report.
So thanks, Dani. That's a great overview of the power of VAI software. Thanks so much. And just looking at some of these time for cycle count, dead spot, centralized real-time reporting. Dani, any thoughts from your perspective?
Cycle count is a major issue today. Instead of closing the warehouse once a year, take inventory, you scan every single location every week. If you find inventory shouldn't be there, you lock the location, you scan the whole location. That eliminates the need to close the warehouse. Another issue is the banking industry today. If they ask you for your inventory and you tell them it take me a week to close the warehouse, they tell you go to your second market because your editor will tear it down. Second issue is the M&A world. The sellers say my company is worth $50 million. The buyers say you have $10 million excess inventory and receivable are 200 days old, which might join Best Bet and beyond. And that's where the horse trading starts, and most of M&As fail because of it. Having one database that's integrated eliminates the need. You download the data spreadsheet, give me 10 minutes, and here is your inventory, my financial, anything you need.
Thanks, Dani. John, your thoughts?
Yeah, of course. It's all part of the integration. You need to have good cycle counts. You can't have you have to have real-time reporting. And one of the things that we can do, we can give reports also through the Pick the Light system, the software that comes with that, and you can judge the efficiency of certain pickers and know what they do, and all of this counts when it comes down to executing and making your system work, to high efficiency.
So we do have a question. Dani, you want to answer the question?
Yeah, basically, by scanning the barcode on the box, either using an RF gun or a smartphone, we know what's in the box. It's very important to have a barcode on the box. A lot of vendors don't ship the product with the barcode on it.
Yeah.
So when the products arrive in the warehouse, the picker has on his belt a printer, and he can just scan the pallet and put in every box the appropriate barcode label. So the picker knows, pick up the inventories, you know what it is and how much it should pick in, and how much quantity is in the box.
Mm-hmm. John, do you have some other thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that helps us when we go to this pick and pass or zone pick within the pick module. Of course, we need to have all of that information so that we can be efficient. And if you go to the pick the light system, it's over 99% efficient.
Nice. Hopefully we answered your question, Jua. And with that, we'll just move on to the next section, and that is a section on e-com last mile logistics. I'm just going to hit this really high level. The last mile logistics, of course, we have a number of end-to-end supply chains from suppliers to stores. This is the traditional model that we're all familiar with. Then you have the warehouse to the online shop. So that kind of grew up the next level. And then we have it to our stores to the mobile shop. So today we have many different ways of moving goods, and now it's going to the item level, as we discussed for the most of this webinar. And with that, from a logistics perspective, we just have some maps here from one of our other partners, Optologic, who does simulation modeling for logistics. And they can model, going from a central location to your warehouses all the way to the end user to the doorstep. So Optologic, does the business to business or business to consumer modeling, simulation modeling. Of course, having the unified database that we've been discussing here, and having that data there and having that at each of your nodes and pulling that data in is the key to making these simulation models work. A lot of folks, the buzzword out there is digital twins. The data is you can't run a digital twin model if your data is not good and verifiable. And the beauty of what John and Dani have is they're going to provide you with that data so that you can start optimizing your networks from a logistics perspective, which is what everybody wants to get to. But again, without that unified database, these types of tools, simulation tools, which are very easy to use today with today's technology, is critical. John, your thoughts?
Yeah, the more information you have and the more you can model and have a simulation like this, the better your decisions are going to be. So I think that, and you look at Europe there, the map of Europe, our distribution model in the United States is becoming more and more like Europe because of the transformation, higher wages, can't find employees. Europe has faced these things for many years. A lot of people take a lot of vacation time, so they have automated their distribution and manufacturing facilities a lot more than we have. And now that type technology is really beginning to transform here and make it's really exploded.
Absolutely. And typically you can get 5 to 8%. When we were doing this back in the early 2000s, we were getting up to 30% increase in or decrease in cost and transportation costs and networking costs by doing these type of analysis. And now it used to be you do it every 18 months, but now you can move to doing it actually in real time with another one of our partners, Creatosoft. So depending on where you are in your journey, there's a lot of technology out there, but again, it's all starts with the block and tackle of a unified database and putting in the systems that we talked about for most of this webinar. With that, I think we'll move to the closing area with the case studies. John?
Yeah, this is a case study of a company that started on Canal Street in New York City, selling knives and swords out of a little storefront, and grew into a very, very large company in distribution, doing a lot of e-commerce. The company itself needed a more efficient way to fulfill orders, and we were lucky enough to build a large pick module for them. The challenge for us was that they needed a lot of pallet storage, because they bring in a lot of goods at one time. So what we did is we built a pick module on the bottom where we have flow rack on each side with the tri-width conveyor. But above that, we needed to store 2,500 pallets and 2,600 SKUs underneath. So on the upper level, we put in pushback rack, 4 pallets from one side, 3 from the other for the overstock. And then below, we have 2,600 SKUs within the pick module, which has increased their efficiency. It went through the roof, because they had what I talked about before, people walking down aisles with fork trucks going in and out. They were picking, onto carts. And this way, it's almost more like a production line where you're feeding the pickers through the WMS all the information they need to pick, and then they can ship it out to shipping and get it out the door. This is another pick module that we did. You see there the conveyor that is at the eye level. That is the trash conveyor that takes the corrugated out. What they're doing here is they're fulfilling and they're sending out to these cases, and then they'll fill totes to be packaged at the oftentimes there are maybe multiple picks to be made, and they'll fill the tote. They have over 10,000 different SKUs, and they can handle over 100,000 picks on a nightly cycle.
Pretty impressive. Dani?
That's a case study of a flashlight distributor that has multiple locations with multiple ERP systems. And that created a big issue for them controlling the inventory. As you can see, the cost saving is pretty big. They dropped from 170,000 various a year to 5,000, which is a very impressive number. This is a typical case study of companies had outdated software that has 3 separate ERP software. And when they try to modernize it, which is today's reality, they couldn't handle the RF gun because they have low wage employers, and the training was too high. So they got we gave them a $400 gun with RFID on it at the back. It can be an Android or a smartphone. Now they can pick in 24 hours and achieve 99% accurate inventory accuracy, and that's according to the company president. They are pet supply manufacturer distributor. They sell to the consumer and to the stores.
Thanks, Dani. Excellent case studies. With that, we'll wrap it up with this overview on warehouse automation impacts and ERP WMS impacts. Dani, a few words of things you would like to highlight?
Today's reality, you must have integrated software. The days of if it ain't broken, don't fix it are over. The reality forces you to automate your system, and you must have the ability to reduce your inventory cost, increase productivity, and have multiple location visibility. Otherwise, one warehouse is overstocked, the other warehouse is understocked, which happen often in M&A with multiple ERP system, and creates the inventory issue.
Thanks, Dani. John?
Yeah, in closing on this, if you look at these under the automation part, what it really comes down to is labor, real estate, and accuracy. And if you don't do those things correctly or well, your business is going to be in trouble. So what's really happening is if you're not doing that well, you have to change or die, because I've seen it over and over. Companies that will not embrace the change that's rapidly happening within distribution and manufacturing, they're facing tremendous financial constraints, and eventually they'll they go out of business.
Fantastic summary. With that, we're just hopefully everyone enjoyed the video or the webinar today, and we covered these topics. And if there's any other further questions, please contact us directly, or any of us indirectly after the webinar. And we'll be sending out the webinar summary in the next week. And I think I sent out an email to most of you, so you have our email addresses to follow up if you have any questions. So with that, John, any closing comments here?
I just want to thank everyone for their time, and if we can be of any help to you, please contact me, reach out. And between the three of us, I think we have a very strong case for you to improve on your distribution and manufacturing facilities.
Dani, your closing comments?
Thank you for coming to the webinar. I hope you find it informative. And if you need any additional information, please contact any one of us, or the three of us together, and we'll be able to answer any question you have, because we live in a very unsettling reality that we have to address it.
Again, thanks everyone. Thank you, Dani. Thank you, John. Thanks you, Tim, for your support in the webinar. It was very enjoyable, always learning more and more. And we would love to work with each and every one of you. So please do reach out if you have any questions, and we'll follow up. All the best and have a great day.